Good morning. Oh my gosh, I have so much. First of all,
please tell us that much of it has been resolved from what you've heard already.
Some of it has.
Then get right to what hasn't.
I'm a parent to 2 boys, and I've been reading about sacred contracts that we make as souls before we transition and incarnate. And so if you've got children and you're doing the best that you can as a parent, and they have a sacred contract, let's say they're supposed to be a perpetrator or a victim of a violent crime.
We are not really thrilled that you're reading that book.
Okay.
In other words, it implies that your life has already been planned before you got here, and it implies that horrible things have already been planned into your life, and it's just not that way.
It's not true.
It's just not that way. Not one of you came forth from non-physical and planned a horrible thing, but every one of you planned to come forth from non-physical and have experiences that would cause you to have expansion. We're not saying the book is distorted, but we're saying that your take on it and what you just expressed to us is...
Okay, so souls don't come and one is to be a rapist and one is to be a victim of the rapist, and they're just fulfilling that contract.
No,
therefore,
never, not one time ever. All of you come forth knowing that you are extensions of source energy, and only someone who is disconnected from who they really are ever offers anything that is violent in nature. And it's not because you're bad, it's because you're disconnected. And a book like that, or any premise like that, is already deciding that you're not only bad in the action that you offered, but you were bad and that's why you offered that action, and you're not only bad and that's why you offered that action, but you came intending to be bad. Nothing could be screwier than that idea.
Okay, then we all have the right to well-being. I understand that. Then why are there little kids who are starving and baby seals getting clubbed over the head for their fur and pit bull fighting and all that terrible stuff? I'm just trying to find out how you can feel well-being looking at all of that. I'm here to serve humanity.
Well, you may have heard us say earlier that the source within you doesn't look at awful things and feel well-being anyway. The source within you does not turn its attention to those things that are horrible. Anytime you give your attention to something unwanted, there is a perpetuation of the same. So let's sort through this just a little bit here, because we want to leave this in a place where you really feel it and know it. First, we want to say that you don't know, unless you are living something, how it's feeling to the one who's living it. Because you don't know the vibrational relationship between where anyone is and who they really are. You just don't know. It's like if you were to go to an underdeveloped country and you were to see people living in their poverty, your heart would ache for them because your life has caused you to put other things in your vibrational escrow. So the discord you would feel as you witness what they're living and what's in your vibrational escrow would be extreme, while the variance between what's in their vibrational escrow and what they're living is not so extreme. And so we have noticed, as we look around your planet, aside from these extreme conditions that so many of the people in the media are wanting to bring to you in order to evoke a response from you, for the most part, in those underdeveloped countries, we find more vibrational alignment among those people than we do in your very civilized Western culture. There are more of you here living under what you would call the best of conditions who are crossways of your current than there are those that are living in what you are calling poverty. Now, certainly, the starvation is another thing altogether, and we are not wanting you to find starvation and try to make it delightful in your experience. We don't find it delightful. We're just saying, if you give your attention to those things that make you feel that way, you perpetuate them, you don't help them. So look at them briefly enough that you launch your rocket of desire, and then turn your undivided attention to what you desire for them. This is the conversation that we had with our friend earlier. You cannot see your friend suffering and suffer as you see your friend suffering and have any power to help anything anyway. So when you say you've come as an uplifter, you've come as a teacher, you've come as a humanitarian and wanting to help, we're saying you can't help if you let their plight disconnect you, because then you're not connected to the stuff that helps anybody anyway, you see. So now let's get back to things that happen to people, whether they are little people or big people. Let's talk about those negative things that happen. We want to begin, and we want to state this in a way that you can really feel it, or at least you're wanting to then consider it, that as you are watching what's happening to other people, you cannot know what their vibrational experience is or what their vibrational choices are. You just can't know. And we want to address something here that plagues almost every one of you, and that is this notion that the death experience is not a good experience. It's sort of the false premise that you start with. And then the idea that anything that leads to that, therefore, is wrong also. It sort of flies in the face of your understanding that you're eternal beings. It's only when you accept that you are eternal beings that you'll be able to lighten up on this coming and going that you are all doing, you see. And the beasts of your planet really have that down. They are not dreading death. And when they have their death experience, or when they're moving up to their death experience, they don't look at it like you look at it. In other words, and part of it is because as they come into their physical apparatus, they mature easily and quickly, and they have their full-blown physical experience in the way that they've intended to, and they don't mind they're re-emerging in the non-physical and they're returning. In other words, their cycle of life is so well accepted by them that there is no dread in their experience as they are living it. But humans have been practicing the dread of death for so long and have been working so hard to control conditions and are pushing so hard against the things not wanted that you hold yourself individually and collectively against the vibrational current of who you really are.
But having said that, then if the beasts understand that, then why doesn't an antelope just walk right up to a cougar and say, okay, kill me? Why are they running?
Because it's part of the game. Stay with us just a little bit. Because their zest for life continues. Your work is always the same. Speak of your zest for life, and whether your zest for life carries you into what you call the death experience, or whether your zest for life carries you into what you call your physical still experience, it's still the zest for life, and they understand that. They're running in their zest for life. They are not cowering. Why are they not cowering? Because they're not afraid of dying. Jerry and Esther had a chicken. They named it Renegade because it wouldn't stay where it belonged. It was always in the neighbor's pasture, and the neighbor had a dog, and Esther would say to Renegade, that dog's going to get you if you don't stay home where you belong. And Renegade said to Esther on a daily basis, my freedom matters more than my security. My freedom matters more than my security. And so over the fence she would go. Sure enough, one day, Snuggles, strange name for a big dog like that, Snuggles had Renegade in his mouth, and Renegade is hanging like a limp rag. And Jerry had a sensing of something going on, went out on the back porch and looked, and there is Renegade, apparently already dead and ready to be Snuggles' lunch, although Snuggles really did not care for it. He just killed her for the fun of it, it seemed. And Jerry had a shotgun that he had never fired for just such an occasion, and he shot it into the air to get Snuggles' attention, and blew a hole in his favorite tree, by the way, and the telephone line. And Snuggles dropped Renegade. And Renegade shook herself off and got up and came home quickly. And Esther said, Abraham, I thought Snuggles had killed Renegade. I thought Renegade was dead. And we said, she wasn't dead. She was just getting ready to be dead. Her consciousness had already left because she was getting ready to be Snuggles' lunch, and no point in hanging around for that. And then when Jerry interceded, she said, oh, perfectly good body. I think I'll come back. And it's hard for us to imagine that you can't see it the way we see it, and yet we know you have your physical point of view. But we want you to try to get a sense of this picture of life from our broader perspective. We want you to understand the cycle of life on planet Earth Sometimes people say, well, we shouldn't be eating the animals. And we say, if you could orchestrate legislation where you were able to manipulate the public in a way and get them to all stop eating meat, you'll never do it. But let's pretend that you could. You'll never get the big fish to stop eating the little fish. You will never stop the cycle of life that is present and working upon your planet. And so when you understand that there's this cycle of life and that everything that is non-physical is making the conscious, deliberate decision to come forth into this experience, knowing that the mix is going to be what it is, you have to accept that the overall awareness from this broader perspective, who keeps making the decision to return and to return and return and return, whether it's in the rabbit or the gazelle or whether it's in the baby of the infant human, as you make the decision to come, it's based on your knowledge of the well-being of all of this, you see. And it is only human in their defensiveness and in their need to control conditions that gets in that distorted place where you don't embrace the wonder and the perfection of the cycle, you see. And that's what we seek to soothe you. We want to soothe you back into your understanding that you are eternal. Jerry, years ago, before we were interacting with them in this way, before he knew Esther, was in the back of a pickup truck with a man who knew that the brakes were not working, who said, no problem, I can manage this truck by using the gears. And because his children were in the back of this pickup truck, Jerry assumed that he knew what he was doing, and so Jerry piled in and was tutoring the children on Spanish, and they were going up this canyon road. And then Jerry hears something that was very troubling to him. He could hear that the driver was trying to gear down to slow the truck down, but it was moving too fast and he couldn't get it to go in. And so Jerry knew that the truck was out of control. And so he said to the children, well, this is it, because he knew they were on a mountain ledge. He knew that the outcome was not likely to be a good one. And they all just sort of braced themselves. And the man was wise enough, rather than going over the embankment, to turn the truck into the mountainside, which caused it to turn upside down. And the truck landed down on top of all of them. They were in the back of the truck, and there was a canvas roof on it, and Jerry said that he can remember his hands and knees hitting the pavement and thinking, oh, that wasn't so bad, and then the truck hitting all of them and knocking him unconscious, which left him believing that he was never again going to worry about death, because he said, in the way he told the story for years, we were alive, 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 and then suddenly nothing. And so I no longer fear death, because I understand how quickly it happens and that there's nothing to worry about. And when he told that story to us, we said, that is nothing like the death experience. You had an unconscious experience. The death experience is super consciousness experience. You don't go from life, 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 nothing. You go from life, 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 more life. You go into more awareness of who you are. You go into an experience of, in one fell swoop, leaving behind all resistance, you see. We are so exhilarated about that which you are so worried about. We want you to begin to see your world through the eyes of Source. We want you to understand the well-being that dominates. And when you start tuning to the vibration of well-being, then you will finally begin living life in the way that you intended. Most people are so afraid of death, they don't allow themselves to live. You see.
I just have one more thing. I understand the law of attraction, and I understand that I can have whatever I want. But knowing that, I still feel a little guilty, because I've been given so many gifts, and I'm acutely aware of my gifts, but people starving, kids
Well, then
abused.
don't worry, because that guilt will keep you from having what you want. Your guilt will keep you from having anything to be guilty about, because in your guilt, this abundance cannot flow to you. Not in any big way. You can eke it out, but you got to let that guilt go to live who you really are. Do you get up in the morning and stand out on your porch and breathe, 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 because you're afraid if you don't breathe it all in that the others will get the air? Do you ever say, I've been well for so long and there are so many sick people, I've decided to be sick for this next decade to allow more people to be well, because I've been using up all the wellness. You never say that, do you?
No.
And you cannot use up the abundance. You cannot deprive anyone of anything by experiencing it yourself. The only thing that deprives them of it is their vibrational gap. So for you to mess up your vibrational gap so that they can have something, do you think they'll get it? They won't. You can't get sick enough to help sick people get well. You can't get poor enough to help poor people become prosperous. You can't do it. It's backwards, you see. Very good. Good time for segment of lunch. We are complete.